KREM 2 News begins now.
Thank you for joining us on KREM 2 Plus. I'm Tim Pham. This is your KREM 2 News Week in Review. Join us as we take a closer look at some of the biggest stories in the Inland Northwest this past week.
WSU Athletic Director Pat Chun did not pull punches today when addressing the Pac-12's collapse.
The last couple weeks was a culmination of years of failed leadership, failed vision, failed implementation. It isn't one singular thing that led to the destruction of the Pac-12 as we know it. It was a bunch of decisions and failed strategies that put us in this place.
For the first time since Friday's conference exodus, Chun spoke publicly about where WSU stands.
The reality is, where we sit today is that is an unknown, but there is a place for Washington State and we will get there.
But Chun says the focus is on staying in a Power 5 conference.
As I think President Schultz has been very clear, we're committed. We are a Power 5 school. Our performance indicates that we are a Power 5 school. We're going to do our best to continue to compete at that level. And that's really our goals going forward.
With Washington's departure for the Big Ten, it has left the future of a 123-year-old rivalry in limbo. Many have speculated it could be the end of the Apple Cup. Without a clear future, Chun wouldn't look too far forward, but did address the idea that it could no longer be played in Pullman.
I'm not doing any hypothesis about what could be. Whenever that point comes into time, we'll make decisions based on what's best for Washington State, plain and simple. I don't see not playing the Apple Cup in Pullman not being the best. I don't see how that would ever be a good decision for Washington State.
To end today's presser, Chun doubled down that WSU will find its way.
Washington State will continue to be a national brand because unlike most of the schools in and around the country, we've actually earned it through the work of all of our student athletes and all of our alums around the world.
Travis Green, KREM 2 Sports.
The decision by the University of Washington to leave the Pac-12 will have impacts that go well beyond the one university. After more than 100 years of sharing the same conference, UW and Washington State now find themselves unaligned and facing big questions about the future of their rivalry.
What's it worth? I understand business. I understand change. Everyone's got to change, and we got to adapt. And Wazoo will find its way. We have for 100 and some years.
Several viewers, including John, reached out to ask, was there any attempt by the state to keep UW and WSU together? Let's verify. Our sources are Washington State Senate Bill 5206 and Senator Drew McEwen, the main sponsor of the bill.
Both schools receive significant taxpayer funding. I believe that the taxpayers have a right to have oversight to a certain degree via the legislature on major decisions, and certainly changing conferences is a major decision for either school.
Senate Bill 5206 was introduced in January. It leaned into the shared history of WSU and UW and reads in part, it is in the public's interest to preserve the shared state history and athletic achievement of the University of Washington and Washington State University by maintaining these schools in the same athletic conference.
So the objective of the bill was to, one, have WSU and UW stay together, that if they move conferences, that they go together. And secondly, that they'd have to have legislative approval.
The senator acknowledges it would have been difficult to get the bill passed. However, it never even got a hearing after he says both schools pressured the committee chair.
I was told at the time, and their statements they made to me were that we don't need this. It'll be a distraction. The Pac-12 is going to be fine. There's not going to be any more schools leaving. Frankly, I don't blame the University of Washington for exploring its options. But WSU passed up an opportunity to potentially have a solution for themselves through this bill.
So we can verify, yes, there was a bill to try to keep UW and WSU in the same conference, but it never made it out of committee. As for what's next?
Well, the ship has sailed. I don't think we can stop the process for the University of Washington. I think they totally disregarded the east side of the state and cared to look more towards Eugene than they did Pullman, and that's sad.
Police have not said how this 53-year-old woman became a suspect, but they had enough evidence to make an arrest. Tonight, West Hills residents are relieved and still thankful that these fires burned through trees and not homes.
53-year-old Vicki Smith was arrested this morning 280 miles away in Tukwila.
Police believe she intentionally set off multiple fires last week in the West Hills neighborhood. Authorities are also confident Smith is behind this graffiti threatening to burn down Spokane. It was discovered hours before the fires.
Relieving. At this point, I think it's shared throughout West Hills neighborhood.
West Hills Neighborhood Council Chair William Hagee doesn't understand why someone would intentionally put people's lives and property at risk.
So in addition to the residents that were immediately evacuated, including myself and elderly family members, it was a really chaotic time.
My whole world changed when I got the phone call.
Fire Chief Brian Schaefer says he's proud of all the firefighters that responded that day and the small team of investigators.
That was done exceptionally quickly considering all of the data that they had between all of the emails, 911 and 311 or crime check calls, as well as the forensic evidence.
Tonight, we're learning more about suspect Vicki Smith, a convicted felon who pleaded guilty years ago to second-degree assault. According to her 2020 pretrial report, Smith said she had lived in Spokane her entire life, but had been homeless the last 11 years. Smith is now charged with 3 counts of arson in the first degree. Smith is in the King County Jail tonight. She'll have to be extradited back to Spokane from Seattle, and it's unclear how long that process will take. Reporting in West Spokane tonight, Kyle Simchuk, KREM 2 News. Campfires are not allowed in Camas Park, but someone decided to have one last week. The Idaho State Fire Marshal's office says this is what caused this.
It's really disappointing. Rules are in place for a reason.
Amanda Connor lives next to the park.
There was like ash getting in my eyes. It's really, really smoky.
She and her 2 kids were forced to evacuate Friday and had to stay with friends. Police finally let them back in late Saturday night.
It's such a beautiful area back there. I just hope that it's not ruined because somebody wanted to have a campfire.
Until we really know, we're going to treat it like a criminal arson investigation. We're going to treat it like that. Look for witnesses, look for suspects, and try to figure out what happened, exactly what happened. And once we figure that out, then we'll decide if it is criminal or not.
Post Falls Police Captain Mark Brantle is hoping witnesses come forward. He didn't find much evidence at the campfire.
And a couple cans that looked like it was beans or stew or something of that nature that they cooked on it, and that was it. There was nothing else there.
It could turn out to be a very expensive can of beans. Scott Phillips with Idaho Department of Land says firefighting costs could exceed $1 million.
The Department of Lands has a statutory obligation to pursue cost recovery on every single negligently started fire. So we are grateful to have Post Falls Police Department taking the lead of the criminal investigation on this. We're hopeful that they're going to identify whoever started it, because that will enable the Department of Lands to go after that individual civilly for the cost of suppression, which will be substantial.
They better pay for everything instead of our tax dollars, because it's not fair for everybody to have to. That's a lot of money for Idaho, for North Idaho to pay. And those poor firefighters. I have a friend that's up the road, and she was the one that had her property was on fire.
Connor's friend Cheyenne Tate shared these photos with us. She's letting firefighters use her shop as a shelter and even bought them burgers. Tate says she could never truly repay fire crews who tonight are still protecting her property.
And the threat was very real. With a fire of that magnitude, it was by grace of God that those homes were spared.
In Post Falls, Kyle Simchuk, KREM 2 News.
It's the most activity these plots have seen in months as Graymar environmental crews are clearing out and cleaning up the former encampment. Since the last camper moved out in early June, this washed-out property along I-90 has been quiet. But quiet made way for progress this week.
It's definitely happening.
Angina Silvers lived here for decades.
It's getting cleaned up.
Her and her neighbors are glad to see the slate of what was Camp Hope wiped clean.
It looked like they had taken down a lot of trees. That part I didn't like, but I think they have to do a massive cleanup of the area.
Ryan Overton with WashDOT says they've hired Graymar environmental crews to clear things up above and below the surface.
Take about the first 6 to 12 inches of soil off the top of the surface. They're working in quadrants. Those quadrants will then get tested.
Soil tests will show if the ground was contaminated during its time as Camp Hope. If so, that dirt can be taken to a disposal site.
It was so saturated, it was really a mess.
That work should be completed by month's end, setting up the site to become part of a new freeway system in 2025.
That would be kind of roughly where one of the flyovers is to access the North Spokane corridor.
Until then, neighbors like Silver are just glad to see a mostly empty lot and the progress it stands for.
That needed to be done, and it looks like people are going to many lengths to get it done.
Overton says, barring any contamination, we could see these lots reseeded with grass by the fall. Shannon Mowdy, KREM 2 News.
We sat down for about 20 minutes tonight. Birkeland says he was having a panic attack on Tuesday, but detectives believe the shooting was premeditated.
I committed myself because I attempted to murder my parents.
22-year-old Charlie Birkeland says he's been having nightmares.
Like my pa and my ma in the hospital bed.
He's charged with 2 counts of first-degree attempted murder over what happened inside this South Spokane home Tuesday morning, a home he shares with his mom and stepdad.
You can't do that to your family.
Birkeland told us he had an anxiety attack Tuesday morning.
I'm just trying to use the bathroom, but because I'm so stressed, I can't use the bathroom.
According to court documents, his mom heard him yelling in the bathroom and told him to keep it down.
Just like that, that's it. You can't be here. I mean, we can't deal with this.
Deputies say the 22-year-old then went upstairs and tried to strangle his mom. A neighbor heard her screaming and called Birkeland's stepdad, who was in the barn. The neighbor called 911 when she heard gunshots.
It's no way to conduct love.
Deputies say once his stepdad came upstairs, Birkeland shot him and his mom. They were rushed to the hospital in serious but stable condition. Birkeland turned himself into deputies at Fire Station 81, a 4-minute drive from the crime scene.
They needed that priority to be able to call 911 and not have the line busy.
Detectives believe the attack was premeditated. According to court docs, Birkeland hid a key to his stepdad's gun safe, wore gloves during the shooting, and positioned his car along the road for a quick getaway. Birkeland's mom was shot once in the back. His stepdad suffered multiple gunshot wounds.
People are finite. They only have so much they can put up with.
Birkeland says life at home wasn't happy and told detectives he was abused as a child. However, detectives noted what he described sounded more like parental discipline. Birkeland told us he wants to know how his parents are, but a court order says he's not allowed to have contact.
Hopefully by being a bad example, that can remind everybody that we need to love each other and take care of each other.
And today, a judge set Birkeland's bond at $500,000. In the studio, Kyle Simchuk, KREM 2 News.
More multifamily housing is coming to Spokane. The Building Opportunity and Choices for All program modified city code to allow duplexes, triplexes, and fourplexes on single-family lots, and it just completed its first year. The city hopes these builds will be a step towards solving Spokane's housing crisis. Back to school is right around the corner, so let's refresh some of your basic math skills. If 2 families each move in on 3 separate lots, how many new families can move to Spokane? In case you've misplaced your calculator, the answer is 6.
They can be less expensive. They're more efficient with land. They're more efficient with infrastructure.
These are some of the benefits City Planning Director Spencer Gardner says comes with building duplexes, triplexes, and fourplexes on single-family lots. July 2022, the City of Spokane passed a 1-year ordinance to allow this kind of housing through the Building Opportunities and Choices for All program. Gardner says it was a temporary solution to make living in Spokane more accessible.
One of the goals of this change is allowing different housing types that can often be achieved at lower price points, and making sure that they are allowed and integrated throughout the entire city, so that we're not just creating this change in one neighborhood that then feels disproportionately impacted, but that all neighborhoods are participating in the growth of Spokane.
It's been 1 year since the city approved the pilot year of the program. Today, all stages of construction can be found across the city.
What we've seen is that there is demand for this housing type. We're pleased that there has been, construction and that there are permits moving forward.
Gardner says 70 housing units have been built or are in the process of being approved and built. 42 of those are duplexes and 20 are fourplexes. The rest include townhouses and detached homes.
We knew that this was a serious problem throughout the community, and we decided to take pretty quick and decisive action.
City data reports there have been more residential permits issued for new multifamily buildings in 2023 than any year since 1995. So more multifamily buildings, plus an already growing community, equals more opportunities for people to be able to call Spokane home. And that's math you can't deny. While the first year has come to a close, the Spokane City Council actually approved an extension of the multifamily housing ordinance through the end of the year. But Gardner says the goal is to establish a permanent change to the city code by November. In the studio, Janelle Finch, KREM 2 News.
This is beloved Sunset Apartments right off of Sunset Boulevard and 7th Avenue. Its goal is to make living in Spokane more accessible and affordable for over 50 low-income families and individuals.
Doors are opening for more people to call Spokane home.
Brand new everything, brand new appliances, feeling like home as well. And I want to take you on one of these.
Take Up the Cause Executive Director Chauncey Jones says beloved Sunset Apartments welcomes people who are at 60% or lower than the average median income.
It's amazing that the more you help people, the more you become blessed.
The newly renovated apartments include specific units for people experiencing homelessness, permanent supportive housing, and ADA accessibility. The Washington Department of Commerce provided $10 million to the project from the State Housing Fund. Wednesday, Jones showed Commerce Director Mike Fong the result of 11 months of collaboration.
Nothing more rewarding than being able to come home and know that we're dealing with an affordability crisis all across the state in housing, and to see projects like this get up off the ground with our department's support.
Jones says the low-income housing opportunity provides a stepping stone to a more stable life.
This gives us that gateway to that so we can start getting into housing, because not only our BIPOC communities at the top when it comes to homelessness, high percentage of that, but also the lowest when it comes to home ownership.
Jones says access to resources like healthcare and childcare are next steps in the holistic approach to equity. But with 9 tenants already moved in to beloved Sunset Apartments, the housing gap for some just got that much smaller.
Chauncey Jones says there is a wait list right now for people looking to live at beloved Sunset Apartments, but you can call the number on your screen or send an email to belovedsunsetsapts@kimleyhaygood.com to join that wait list. All of that information will be available on our website, krem.com. In Spokane, Janelle Finch, KREM 2 News.
The WSU Spokane Medicine Building celebrated their grand opening today, and I'm inside the active learning classroom, which is a classroom unlike anything you might be used to. One of the coolest features is the state-of-the-art touchscreen monitor, where you don't only have to show presentations on it, you can also click on a new meeting and start your own Zoom presentation where you can share your ideas with your classmates.
Let's start. The day is finally here.
3, 2, 1.
Washington State University Spokane medical students can finally rejoice.
I think it's going to have a great impact on my 4 years.
The newly renovated WSU's medical building opened just in time for the upcoming school year.
Looking around the building, it is so beautiful, and I'm really excited about being able to study within all the new beautiful study spaces.
Natalie Williams is an incoming medical student. She considers herself
very, very lucky. I think this is going to be amazing for our learning experiences.
The 113,000 square foot building has several classrooms, study spaces, and a student lounge. Many students will have the opportunity to get the practical experience they need without going to a hospital.
But now walking through it and actually seeing it, it's quite remarkable. It's going to be a great place for students to study.
Next year, Pierce Clausen will graduate with 80 of his peers. Even though it's his last year, he can't wait to take advantage of the new space.
I'm most excited about the student lounge. I think it's a great, large, open-air space with bright windows, so it'll be a nice place to run into younger students and older students to really just collaborate.
The new building won't only promote student collaboration.
It's going to help us to move to the forefront of educational practices for medicine.
Daryl DeWald, the school's chancellor, hopes the building makes WSU's School of Medicine a premier destination.
So students will have the chance to start working inside this building and even inside this classroom as soon as this Monday. And the first day of school is August 21st. In Spokane, Nathan Han, KREM 2 News.
Over the last 3 years, you may have wondered what's being built along I-90 in Moses Lake. And today, construction is finally complete.
One of the reasons for that is easy access, as people come from surrounding areas to be able to come in on the freeways.
With a footprint of 20,000 square feet and 117 feet tall, this new temple for the Church of Latter-day Saints is twice the size of the one in Spokane. And while most people never have access to see the inside of a temple, for a limited time now, it's open to the public.
The things that we do here are sacred and not secret.
With more than 18,000 Latter-day Saints members in the Moses Lake area, church leaders say it's a perfect new location. In fact, it's estimated up to 400 members will visit the temple each day.
I assume they'll be buying food and staying in hotels possibly.
And that's music to the ears of Moses Lake City Manager Kevin Fuhr, who expects the temple could draw in about 50,000 visitors to the city.
It will definitely generate a lot of tourism. It'll generate a lot of people coming to view it. All of that brings economic resources to the city.
Apart from visitors, the temple is already bringing new members to Central Washington.
And I asked them, well, what brought you here? And they say, well, the temple.
So if you'd like to take part in that temple's open house, it's happening now through August 19th. Again, it's open to the public every day except Sundays. You can find the exact time on our website. Just go to KREM.com. In the newsroom, Nathan Hyun, KREM 2 News.
Though, let's just pull that in. If you could set it, let's just set here and pull that into that dry area.
Oh, that'll be great, and we can start lining it up.
My name is Stan Hurd. I'm from Kansas. I'm an earthworks artist. This is our 5th year in the Palouse. I've got a great crew out here. We did the first year and decided it was so fun we came back, and now we're on the 5th year. This is the close-up of the image that's gridded.
My name's Kyra Rosalie. I am Stan's art director. Stan is a legendary muralist, and it's an honor to be able to be. I think in his entire life he hasn't had anybody be able to follow in his footsteps.
And she does it. We have a very diverse crew of people that can help me on 7 different levels, but having somebody that could actually look at this design and do it even if I wasn't here, that's, Kyra's the first one that's come along to do that.
My name's Tony Dravetto. I'm the Senior Manager of Public Relations and Digital Community at BCU. This location, we're located on Jack Fulf's land right now, who is a 3rd-generation farmer, WSU alumni. His farm is right as you come into Pullman off of the highway, so you can't miss it if you're driving back to school.
Have people been stopping by, seeing what's going on?
The number one way they can communicate with us is by honking right at the intersection over there.
And we get a lot of that.
We get a lot of that.
I'm from an ag school, or close to an ag school in Kansas. Kansas State University reminds me a lot of Washington State's rivalry with Washington. I love the Cougs, I love ag. I came from agriculture country, so great blend, great city, great state. We really love it out here.
This is definitely a tradition at this point. We're in year 5 and people are excited to come out and see the new design every year.
It becomes this communal effort of building something around a celebration of what this countryside's about and what that school's about.
Any bit of hope or pride that we can help instill into this community at this particular time, I think, is definitely beneficial.
We are finished. Love you.
Love you too, Stan.
This is a place of possibilities, where kids come to learn and Jada Dane learn to dream.
I have a dream of opening up my own bakery. It's just giving me so many opportunities I didn't think I was going to be able to have.
When 4th grade Jaden came to Sunset Elementary in Airway Heights, school was not a focus.
Growing up, my parents didn't care if we went to school or not.
But Rachel Millsap cared. She was an Eastern Washington University student at the time and a mentor with the nonprofit Communities in Schools Spokane.
I just went to this little girl. She had blue hair at the time, and that was Jaden, and we just hit it off, and that was my little mentee. From that point on.
I was a foster kid, and so I was struggling with a lot of things. And she helped me with school and everything I was struggling with.
Communities in Schools and programs like KREM Cares Tools to Schools provided a pathway between a struggling student
I never thought that I would graduate.
And help. Sometimes a backpack is much more than a place to put books.
It's something you can give them that equals the playing field for them and just makes them ready to show up to school. But then it allows you to open the door to conversations and relationships and programs throughout the school year that started with something that we might deem so small, but otherwise is not to these kids.
They were able to give me stuff to make me feel like I would fit in more.
That connection helped Jaden love school and stay in it.
She showed up and I showed up for her.
And in fact, when interviewed, Jaden talked about the importance of her mentor. We shared part of that interview with Rachel.
She made it possible for me to be able to continue to grow and learn as much as I did.
She's the best. I think that was equal. She taught me just as much as I taught her in so many different ways.
What began as a weekly meeting in a school library has turned into a nearly decade-long friendship.
I have her 5th grade graduation photo of us and then her high school graduation photo of us, which is really fun.
I'm the first in my family to graduate high school.
A first of many accomplishments, in part because there were people and programs for Jaden and a place of possibilities.
Thank you for joining us here on KREM 2 Plus for a look at some of the biggest news stories of the past week. For the most current news throughout the weekend, you can watch our latest newscast right here on KREM 2 Plus. Just look for them in the bottom navigation menu. I'm Tim Pham. Thanks for watching.